Hey gang, it's Jeff and welcome to our Tuesday night live stream. As always, we've got our excellent producer Jill on with us, who's going to help us go through the questions and lead the way. Now, before we begin, I need to read our standard disclaimer for the state of New York. Many of the questions we cover here are nuanced. We do our best to answer them, but our responses are meant to be directional, not exact. Your situation may require more details than we can give in a live stream. Therefore, this live stream is for educational purposes only. We haven't had a chance to speak with you one-on-one, so please treat this information as general guidance, not advice to act on. For anything specific to your situation, make sure you talk with a qualified professional. And with that, I think we're done. Jill, why don't you lead the way with questions?
All right, Jeff, that sounds like a great plan. And we have a lot of questions that have been emailed in, and they are coming in fast and furiously through the email. So we are going to do our best to try to really get through as many questions as possible. Do know, though, that we do keep track of all those questions, and they will be answered in time in many different ways, which will come to you in the future.
That sounds intriguing. Are you trying to hint at something?
I am, but I won't reveal anything yet.
All right.
There are some things planned for the future.
Some things are afoot.
Some
besides
things
your foot.
Definitely afoot. Yes, yes, indeed. All right, we cannot waste a minute. We have a lot of questions to be answered. As always, please do put your questions into the chat box as they pertain to Social Security. We will take as many questions as we can live. We will also be mixing in all of your emailed questions as well. So to get us started until the chat box starts to roll in, we're going to start with an emailed question. And Jeff, this is one that was emailed in last week and somehow did not get responded to. And we then heard back. And so we would like to get to this one first. And this is from Jeff and his daughter, Morgan. And they had both emailed in. So want to get to this one. He is saying, I started receiving Social Security at my full retirement age of 66 and 10 months in December 2025, with a benefit of approximately $3,700 before Medicare premiums. I have stage 4 cancer in limited time. My wife turns 62 on September 1st. If she claims Social Security on her own earnings record now, approximately $1,017 per month, can she later switch to my record and receive my full benefit as a survivor when she reaches her full retirement age?
Yeah. It's tough. Yes, you can. Just a couple of things to note here. People often confuse the spousal benefit and the survivor benefit because they both begin with the S and they both go to the same person. But the spousal benefit and the survivor benefit are two completely different benefits. The spousal benefit has all sorts of haircuts attached to it. And we'll talk about those because I saw some of the questions that were emailed, and we'll talk about those in great detail later. But the survivor benefit is one where I think the politicians probably tried to get it right. Nothing is perfect, but my comment about the survivor benefit is if you look at Social Security, most of the time you see something, they're rounding down. If it's going to fall one way or the other, it's going to fall not in your favor. The survivor benefit's the opposite. What do I mean by that? Well, if you are a spouse and you have your own benefit and you claim your own benefit and you later switch the spousal benefit, that spousal benefit is reduced, not the survivor benefit. The survivor benefit works differently, and that is if you claim your own benefit early and then you claim the survivor benefit later, you get the full survivor benefit, assuming you wait until your own full retirement age. It's not haircut based on anything you did with your own benefit. So yes, Jeff, you are correct. She will get 100% of your benefit, provided she waits until her own full retirement age, which based on what you've just said is age 67. And just by way of background, I saw this question come through, and I apologize, Jeff, for not getting it to you last week, but I did send you an email with a lot more detail than this, and also a copy of the Social Security Quick Guide, which has 3 columns. Column 1 is the primary insured's benefit. Column 2 is the spousal benefit, and column 3 is the survivor benefit, and the reductions if you claim early. And what you'll see is on the survivor benefit, if you wait until full retirement age, you get 100% of the deceased's full retirement age benefit, assuming that they waited until their own full retirement age to claim. So you can rest easy on this one. Really just focus on things that are important to you right now.
All right, thank you. And Jeff, so just be sure to check your email for the more detailed info. And for everyone else that is listening, I did also put the link to that Social Security Quick Guide that Jeff just showed, if anyone's interested in printing that and having access to that. Okay, great. So we have some questions coming in to the chat box. News Center is asking, husband is 70, wife is 64. Husband is getting Social Security now for 6 months. With these details, is the best path wife claims at 67 and spousal at 67, or wife claim now, and she's currently 64, and then spousal is 67?
So the question is, should the wife claim her own Social Security payment now and then switch to the spousal benefit later? That's a very specific question, and without all of the details, I can only give you the way to think about it, or a way to think about it. Typically, if you are claiming your own benefit first and switching to the spousal benefit later, that means that your payment's smaller. And so normally what would happen is you would claim your benefit first and then switch to the larger benefit later. However, it sounds like you've already claimed the primary insurance amount as the husband, and there's a concept called dual entitlement. And what that basically means is, if the primary insured has claimed their own benefit and the spouse files for his or her own benefit, not the spousal benefit, the SSA will default to the larger of the two. So if you claim at age 64 as a spouse and you claim your own benefit, but you're eligible for the spousal benefit, and that's a higher number, you're going to get the higher number. So be aware of that when claiming, because your intent may be to claim the spousal benefit, but your intent may be to claim your own benefit and switch to the spousal benefit later. But if your spouse qualifies for both, then she's going to get the higher of the two.
Okay, so KK Lewis 1 is just kind of clarifying and wondering, so is the best practice that the lower earner takes Social Security early while the higher earner wait until 67 or 70?
Depends on what you're optimizing for. If you're optimizing for the survivor benefit, like we were talking about earlier for Jeff, for example, then your best way forward, if you're the primary earner, is to wait until you're 70, because at 70 you can actually claim Social Security, get 124%, and that becomes the base for your own benefit. Sorry, that becomes the base for the survivor benefit. Also, if you just anecdotally on that same note, if you've reached full retirement age, you can suspend your payment and let it continue to grow. And then when that happens, it increases the size of the survivor benefit. So that's always an option too. But there isn't really a best practice, because there isn't There isn't one situation that fits everybody. Just remember that if the primary insured has already filed, that the spousal benefit becomes available. And then when the spouse files for his or her own benefit, they're automatically going to get the larger of the two.
Okay, ShopGirl6673 is asking, if you or your spouse, I believe the word should be in there, if you or your spouse Social Security benefit, if you or your spouse's Social Security benefit is about the same amount, do you still recommend both claiming at full retirement age of 67 years old?
It depends. The framework around this, by the way, is in my course, Social Security Simplified, which, I am actually plugging it. I'm not intentionally plugging it, but we're in the 1-year anniversary of the course. And when we launched the course, we gave 50% off to everybody because it was a new course. And at the 1-year anniversary, I thought, let's give everybody 50% off since we're 1 year in. It's really only between now and a very short period of time, no later than Labor Day, maybe even before. Right now, we're giving everybody 50% off. And that's coupon code 1 year. And the go to holyschmidt.com/course. But inside the course, there's a 25 question, basically, survey that you take. And it asks you a lot of questions about your health, your partner's health, the interplay between your health and your partner's health, things you might need to worry about, and it guides you. It gives you a sense of where you might want to go. What are your biggest concerns? Are you concerned about your survivor? That, frankly, is a lot of people's number one concern these days. Are you concerned about getting every dollar out of Social Security? So you're looking for break even. Do you just need the money? Life's been hard and you have no other options. Are you trying to optimize for something? Do you have enough money to retire well, even on a smaller Social Security payment, but you really want to enjoy your go-go years? So there isn't one answer to the question. The answer to the question really becomes, what are you optimizing for? And if you're optimizing for maximum dollars, then just do the break-even calculation for you and your partner combined. And there's software that will do that for you. Usually what ends up happening is it either shows somewhere around full retirement age or greater. There was a study done at the University of Michigan that I cite in this course, and there was a study done using the University of Michigan data, and the study concluded that 96% of the people take Social Security at the wrong time. Now, if you think about what the author was optimizing for, he was optimizing for total payments. And so if you squint and say, I am optimizing to get every last dollar out of Social Security, well, then if you have a short longevity span, you're going to tend to claim less unless you want to maximize the survivor benefit. Then you probably focus on full retirement age, maybe higher. But if you expect to live a long life, then you would want to push it out as far as you can if you're optimizing just for maximum payment. But the fact is, as I said before, people don't optimize for maximum payment. I think 1 out of 3 people take I think the stats are correct. 1 out of 3 people take Social Security at either 62 or 63, certainly before age 64. And I can tell you that they're not optimizing for maximum payment. They're optimizing for something else. Or maybe they just took the advice of a friend and just did what they did. I don't know. There are a lot of reasons for it, but getting crystal clear about what you want from Social Security is job one. Once you know that, then you can move on to tweaking, because you actually have 96 different choices. Between age 62 and age 70, you have 96 choices as the primary insured. And so there isn't one choice. There's 96 different options. And each option, each month you may wait, gives you a little bit more. So you have a lot to play with here.
Okay, let's take a question from email from Catherine S. She is asking, my spouse is 76 and I am 65 and a half. We are both currently enrolled in my employer's high deductible health plan with HSA contributions, and my employer has more than 20 employees. I plan to retire around September 2027. Would it make sense to move my spouse to Medicare at the start of the new benefit year in January while I remain on my employer's plan until retirement? Would this qualify as a special enrollment period for my spouse? And would there be any Medicare penalty since he has been covered under my employer's insurance since age 65?
Yep. Well, so since your spouse has been covered by your current employer's plan and the employer has 20 or more employees, you can generally enroll in Medicare Part B through a special enrollment period. You're correct, without a late penalty, and he doesn't have to wait until you retire. I would say, though, that, and you can stay on your employer's plan, and his Medicare enrollment doesn't prevent you from contributing to your own HSA account. Just remember to stop the HSA account 6 months before applying for Medicare because Part A can be retroactive, specifically in this situation.
Okay, Thomas Williams is asking, I want to retire this year at 65. Each month I work, will my Social Security check be higher?
Depends, probably. It depends on Social Security takes your best 35 years of earnings and then brings those into today's dollars. That's often called, if you're looking at historical earnings, it's called future valuing them. If you're looking at forward-looking earnings, you're talking about present valuing them. But basically, you're just taking historical earnings and bringing them into today's dollars. And just to give you an example, if you made $10,000 in 1986, your multiplier for 2026 would be about 4.06, certainly about 4.0. And so your $10,000 would be worth $40,000 today if you weren't age 60 or older. Once you reach 60, your multiplier is always 1. The reason I tell you that is because if you're earning a lot more today than you were back then potentially it could reduce your overall number, because Social Security assumes that you continue to earn what you earn today until you actually draw on Social Security. So if you're 65 now, it assumes that you're earning what you're earning today until you're age 67. For most people, does it make a huge difference? Not really. But it does make a difference for some people, especially if you had a lot of low earning years and you've just recently had big earning years, it starts to make a difference. But the easiest way to do it is to use a Social Security calculator. There's one on my website, but you can also go on a number of websites and plug in specific information. I think in fact, the SSA has one where you can go in and you can plug in data saying, stop my assumption that I'm contributing now. What will it look like in a couple of years? That's probably the best source for you. The one thing I would say with that is that it won't factor in your cost of living adjustment because it doesn't know what the cost of living is going to be next year or the year after. So it will give you the value in today's dollars, just like we talked about before.
Okay, so the next question isn't necessarily Social Security related, but it is about a Roth conversion versus capital gains video that you put out. So the question is from Rob Stokes, and he's asking, I can control my income. I have a pretty tight grip on where and when I spend, invest, divest my finances. Problem is, I don't know when I can use that control to make the most effective continuation. So continuation decisions. Sorry. For example, 1, in your Roth conversion versus capital gains harvesting videos, I don't know which action to take that appropriately affects my taxes, which gets calculated months continuation. Oh, he's continuing the question. Months later. Or maybe another way to say, example 2 is come December 20th. How do I know if I should take more income or harvest capital gains or put away money into a retirement account?
Yep. Well, the video you're referring to is actually a very popular video. It's a little controversial because people didn't actually think about the fact that you actually would be better off claiming capital gains at zero than doing a Roth conversion at either 0 or 12%. But when you actually look at the video and it lays out the pros and cons and the reasons for each, it makes sense to a lot of people. But people actually need to spend a lot of time getting their mind around the alternative, because we're always told, do a Roth conversion, do a Roth conversion. And I'm a huge fan of Roth conversions, by the way, huge. And I say that in the video. I think if you can manage your tax brackets, it's a game changer for you. But so is harvesting capital gains. It's also hard to do in your head, because you have to not only look at your income this year and your options this year, you need to give some forward thought to what your tax brackets will be in the years ahead, coming ahead. You need to think about your required minimum distributions at either 73 or 75. When you're taking Social Security, what's the impact of Social Security? You need to bring in IRMA into the calculation. All of those are laid out in that video. So it's not just something that most people can do in their head, but you can either do it on a spreadsheet, or Bolden, one of our affiliates, has a wonderful software. It's the personal financial planning software that I use, and give it a try. You can try for 2 weeks, and you can drop your information in there. They'll give you their full featured software free for 2 weeks. And if you decide to keep it, I think it's $12 a month. And there you can model out this scenario and a bunch of others. You can actually have 10 different scenarios in there. But try for free for 2 weeks. Go to go.bolden.com/Schmidt. Use our affiliate URL. And if you decide to keep it, it's $12 a month. And if not, that's fine too. But you've had the opportunity to use something besides your head in this decision. It's like I said, it's the personal financial planning software that I personally use. It's actually quite good.
Okay, and hopefully, Rob, you are on and able to hear this, because I see farther down in the chat asking at 6:18 if we are late to come on, yet your questions are coming through the chat box. So hopefully you're able to hear that. If not, you'll be able to go to the recording of this later and be able to hear. All right, so Shop Girl is asking, this is from before we answered her question. She was just clarifying something about her spouse. Okay, and I did put into the chat box information about the Social Security Simplified course for anyone that would like to take it. It is on the screen, but you can also click on the link here as well. All right, we're going to take a emailed question from Edward. Edward's asking, what is the best way to verify that my U.S. military pay was properly adjusted or credited for my years of military service when Social Security calculates my benefit, especially if I plan to start collecting Social Security at age 70 in May?
The best place to go is your My Social Security page, and just check your earnings record, compare it to eyeball it. Usually is the easiest way to do it. See if that looks right to you, because if it's approximately right on My Social Security, then the calculation itself is actually pretty easy. And so go to your mysocialsecurity.gov or ssa.gov, open your My Social Security page and check it out. I will say, with military personnel in particular, there's a special extra earnings credit, potentially anyway, that began in 1957 through 2001. And so you'll want to make sure that that's in there. After 1967, which I'm assuming would be you, because based on your question, you weren't in the military in 1957. After 1967, it happened automatically. But for those of you that have been on, and those of you who've been in the military and between 1957 and 1967, check it, because they have to do it manually, or they had to do it manually, and it's something definitely worth checking. But you can see your history in your My Social Security page.
Okay, Audrey Davis is asking, received a letter today from Social Security Administration regarding earnings estimate. They stated they are wanting to verify earnings. Not sure why I'm getting this. Nothing has changed. Worked only 6 months in 2026. Why?
Well, the first thing I would do is go on to the MySSA website and see if there's anything there, anything that you need to pay attention to there. But oftentimes there will be something happening in the background that you're unaware of. It has nothing to do with you, but everything to do with some processing issue. I'll give you a good example. If you worked anytime in the last 40 years and someone used your Social Security number to gain employment, you got a problem. And that is, you got your earnings history and you were working, and I'll pick my own state, you were working in New York, but there's another user of your Social Security number in, say, Idaho. Now, how does that work? Because unless you're working in two places at once, it couldn't possibly be. And so a lot of times what they're trying to do is just reconcile information. I wouldn't read too much into it. It sounds more like a process issue, but definitely respond to them. You don't want to ignore it, because if you ignore requests like this, it could be very bad, especially if it's something that you could clear up with a phone call or if necessary, a face-to-face meeting. But don't read too much into it. A lot of times it's just information that they're missing, or they're confused about something. You could have also changed your last name, and maybe they don't understand why you're getting paid less than you should be. Might be a good thing, who knows? But definitely get a hold of them and ask them the question, what's the question you're asking this about, in addition to giving them the information, because they do need the information.
Okay, Tony Monero's here.
All right. Love that guy. Hey, Tony.
He's just asking a logistical question about when I ordered Social Security Simplified on Holy Schmidt, it sent me to RetireWell, where the 50% was automatic.
Yeah.
Is RetireWell your site?
Yeah. It's Jill's and mine. We built that site. It is a labor of love, and the Social Security Simplified course is housed inside of RetireWell, and there'll be a lot more you'll see with RetireWell in the future, but that is the housing mechanism for the site. Every course out there has to have a host, and this one is hosted in the RetireWell community. But yes, it is.
Okay. Next question is coming. Let's take an emailed question as we move through that chat box. Just a second. We're going to take a question from Clint. He's asking, if the primary breadwinner claims Social Security early, does that reduce the spouse's spousal benefit if she waits until 67 to claim? Or can she still receive a spousal benefit of up to 50% of his full retirement age benefit?
No. So it does not reduce the spousal benefit. People get that confused all the time. They think that if the primary earner claims early, let's just use 62, because it's a nice round number. If you claim at age 62 and your full retirement age is age 67, then you will get 70% as the primary earner. Now, your spouse, once you claim, becomes eligible for the spousal benefit, but they don't have to take it. They can continue to wait, and they are entitled to 50%, up to 50% of your full retirement age benefit. The closer they get to their own full retirement age, the closer they get to 50%. And once they hit their own full retirement age, then they get 50% of your benefit, even if you claimed early. That's all on this one pager, by the way, free giveaway. go to hollyschmidt.com/quick guide, and you can see the 3 columns we talked about before, including the one we were talking about with Jeff earlier in the program.
And I will re-put that into the chat box for anyone who entered this room later in just a second. I want to bring you another question from Jan Brooks. She says, I'll be 65 in October. I'm unemployed, married, but divorcing. I'm on my husband's company health insurance. I signed up for Medicare Part A only. Assuming I keep my existing coverage through end of year and then enroll in Part B for 2027 with a supplement, will I get automatic coverage or will there be a health assessment required?
There won't be a health assessment as long as you're on what's called a creditable plan. Now, and by the way, it is the worst name on the planet. I've had health insurance professionals call it credible. It's creditable. And even some of the smartest of them out there call it credible. It's creditable. And basically, in your situation, if you're on a plan that has 20 or more employees, the company has 20 or more employees, either through you or your spouse, that's considered creditable. Once you go on COBRA, though, it's not creditable anymore. So make sure you understand the distinction. If you're on as a spouse, that's one thing. If you're on as COBRA, it's not creditable. So assuming that you just stay on using the spousal or the family benefit, you're fine. If you go on COBRA, then everything changes, and you need to be aware of that. But based on what you just said, it sounds like you'll be fine.
All right, Jerry McCartney is asking, as someone gets older and gets to where they can't manage their money and turns that responsibility over to a trusted family member, how difficult is that process with Social Security to make that transfer?
No, it's not. I mean, it's a form. You can do that. You fill out one form, and I mean, just think about this for a sec. People on Social Security range from 50s in certain circumstances. If you're talking about the survivor benefit, to disabled and the survivor benefit, all the way up to 110, I guess. I don't know what the whole oldest Social Security recipient is, but somewhere in there, somebody either doesn't want to or can't manage their own finances anymore. And there's a provision for that. You just fill out a form, and then that form will allow somebody else to effectively oversee your Social Security finances. You're basically giving them the power of attorney to do that. And it's not difficult at all. But you just make sure that it's something you want to hand over. I've seen a lot of people, when it comes to power of attorney, financial power of attorney or other, that thought that it would be a good idea, only to find out that they really didn't want to do that. Now, I've seen the opposite too. I've seen people, and I know people personally, where they should have given it up 10 years earlier, but they're stubborn and they're not going to do it. And so each situation is unique. Just make sure that you trust the person that you're handing it over to, of course. That's supremely important.
All right, N. Van Pelt is asking, do you have a favorable opinion of a guaranteed income annuity to supplement Social Security in addition to 401ks, brokerage, and IRA adding income?
I do. I'm not sure that I should mention it on a live stream, but shoot me the email at livestream@hollyschmidt.com, and I'll give you my thoughts anyway. But just to be super clear, these aren't recommendations. They're just my thoughts on your question. But let's do this offline, and I'll tell you what I think.
Okay, and I did re-put into the chat box the link to gain access if you are interested in that 2-week free trial with Bolden, the financial planning software. All right. So a emailed in question still from Clint. He actually had 2 questions. Can you show a real life example using actual numbers of how Social Security benefits are taxed and how the 50% and 85% thresholds work when someone also has income from IRAs, RMDs, or other sources?
Yep. So I did more than just, so the answer is yes, but I did more than that. I saw this question in advance. So if you look directly below your screen, there is a video that I did on this called Taxes on Social Security, how to determine taxes on Social Security or something like that. It's there now. Click it. Not now. Wait till we're done here. But that link is already there for you.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good.
It's in the description below. The description below this video, not in the chat, but in the actual description itself. I put it in there a few hours ago.
Okay. Okay. Could my spouse use the same strategy by claiming her own Social Security benefit at 62 and then withdrawing her application after approximately 12 months?
So the question is, sorry, what's the question?
So this was a continuation from the last one where, if I withdraw my Social Security application, can the entire process, we hadn't done that one yet. Okay. So the question is, if I claim Social Security at 67, can I withdraw my application 12 months later, repay the benefits I received, and then refile at 68 for a higher benefit? Could this strategy also increase the potential survivor benefit for my spouse?
Yes, you can do that one time. You can withdraw your application and you have to pay everything back, including anything that you paid or that was paid for you into Medicare, and also the spousal benefit. The spousal benefit needs to be paid back too if that's been paid out. I would highlight though that at age 67, you can also freeze your benefit. Today, you can say, I'm freezing my benefit and I'm going to let it grow until 68, 69, or 70. It's the only age you can do it at full retirement age or later. So you might not want to take the option of repaying it all when you can actually just make a decision. I don't want to do that. I want to just stop right here and then pick it up later. So, but you can only do that at full retirement age. But yes, you have the option to file one piece of paper anytime when you start Social Security, and within 12 months, repay everything, and it's as if it never happened. And then you can choose to file again later.
Okay, so part 2 to that is, if I withdraw my Social Security application, can the entire process be completed online, or do I need to visit a Social Security office? What form would I use, and when can I begin the process?
Well, you can, it's called SSA Form 521. You can download it online, but you need to mail it in. They need a real signature, and then follow up. You can follow up, but it like applying for Social Security, which you can do online. You actually need to do a little bit more because it's unusual. People don't normally do it. And so there isn't a process for it like there is for filing for Social Security. There isn't an automatic process. There's a manual process. And so if you're going to do it early. Do it as early as you can. Number one, because you're going to have to repay whatever you received, including payments to your spouse and including payments to Medicare Part B. And so the pain is less. But the other thing is you don't want to miss that 12-month mark. If you do want to do it, you don't want to do it at 12 months in a day. You want to do it at 10 months, 9 months, 8 months, 7 months.
Okay. And part 3 of that is, could my spouse use the same strategy by claiming her own Social Security benefit at 62 and then withdrawing her application after approximately 12 months?
You can. I'm curious. I'm curious why this is actually you and your spouse are are thinking about this as an option. If it's just academically interesting, that's one thing. But I would say that if this is the plan and you haven't filed for Social Security yet, you might want to think about what your options are in terms of filing for Social Security, because this is it will, for a lot of people, this is very disruptive. They have to write a big check to Social Security, and if you're talking about a big check for you and a big check for your spouse, it's a lot of money in many cases. And so consider it carefully before you file and then unfile. But yes, you can do it. You have up to 12 months and you get one time. You get one shot at it. You can't do it twice. And so the SSA will let you undo this once.
Okay, Laura Cummins has a question about the Social Security Simplified course. She entered late tonight, so she says, sorry if I missed this. Can you please describe if your course on Social Security would benefit me as a single earner? It seems most questions are applicable to married couples.
Yeah, well, by the way, you'll see this on all basically most YouTube videos, on here, elsewhere. The biggest interplay on Social Security, the biggest question people have on Social Security is about the survivor benefit and the spousal benefit. Those are the two biggies. But the course does, of course, cover off those, but it covers off a lot more than that. And whether you're single or you're married, this course will help you get a lot out of your Social Security. It will show you things that you wouldn't even know about when it comes to Social Security. I put something like 500 hours into this course, and we actually had a team of beta testers come in, and they tested the course before we ever released it last year. We spent 3 months with the beta testers, and we re-recorded a lot of things just to make sure we got it right. My guess is it's the most complete course on Social Security out there, although I don't know how to benchmark that against anything. But I'll tell you what we did do, which is really kind of fun. And that is, I realized most people taking this course probably grew up in the 80s. And so we did two things. One, we have a lot of pop culture references to the 80s. And two, the course characters are, which are the ones that we use in the examples, are of the ilk of Stan Lee. Now, for those of you who don't know who Stan Lee is, he's the person who created a lot of superhero names: Peter Parker, Clark Kent, and many others. And what he did was he said, you know what? I want to create characters that people won't forget. And so he used a concept called alliteration. And in an alliteration, you have the first sound of each letter. Clark Kent is CK, but it sounds KK. Peter Parker, KK. And so all of the characters in the course, we used alliteration. Why do we do that? Because it's easier to remember their names, and we gave them identities. And so you can follow these people through the course. It's fun. It's as fun as Social Security is going to be. There's just, you can't make Social Security fun, but you can make it less burdensome. And so two things, I think we've had less than 5 people ask for a refund, and there's 100% money back guarantee within the first 30 days. And we've sold so many courses to people, this course to people. The second is that you join a community of people, and basically you have access to all the updates. So if you're single, there's a lot in there for you. If you're married, you'll learn about the things that are important there too. It's for everybody. So check it out and let me know what you think.
All right. Tony Monero, I'm not sure that the full question came through, but what I'm seeing here is, what is freezing Social Security at full retirement age? And then it says, in my situation, Social Security but so it's, what is freezing Social Security at full retirement age?
You can pause your Social Security payment at full retirement age. It's historically, you could take Social Security, file for the spousal benefit, and then than freeze your own benefit at any age. And the SSA got pretty wise to that very quickly. And so they said, you can't just freeze your Social Security payment anymore. Once you claim it, you have 12 months to undo it, and you got to pay. We're going to make it very difficult for you, but we are going to give you a provision that will allow you to stop your Social Security payment and let it continue to grow. But you need to wait until full retirement age. And if you wait until full retirement age, your payment will grow at the same rate it would have had you not taken it, meaning for most people, 8% per year. So you get 8% per year from 67 to 68, 68 to 69, 69 to 70. Now, the proviso to that is it's not 8% on your full retirement age benefit, 100%. It's 8% on what you were actually getting. So if you filed at age 62, you were receiving 70% using a full retirement age of age 67, you were receiving 70%. And so it would be 8% on that 70%. It would not be 8% on the full retirement age benefit. But it's a great way to increase your benefit. You can increase it up by 24% if you freeze it at age 67 or your own full retirement age. Some people on the call, it might be 66 in 10 months, 66 in 8 months. Whatever it is, you can wait. You can wait for up to 3 years and add 8% per year.
And he's asking, my friend is a retired California teacher who opted decades for a pension and is not eligible for Social Security. Her husband gets Social Security. When he dies, can she get his Social Security even though she still gets a pension?
Sorry, repeat that one more time, because this is a WEP question. So I want to make sure that I understand the dynamics correctly. One more time.
Okay, sure. My friend is a retired California teacher who opted decades for a pension and is not eligible for Social Security. Her husband gets Social Security. When he dies, can she get his Social Security even though she still gets a pension?
Yes. So there, just for everybody's benefit, there used to be, until a few years ago, something called the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. And these were eliminated, I believe it was in 2024, December 2024. And they basically said, you know what, it's not fair for the Social Security Administration to punish someone who contributed to Social Security by haircutting their Social Security payment, even if they qualified for a teacher's pension or a police officer's pension, a retired firefighter's pension, whatever the case may be. But the limit is you actually only get paid on what you contributed to Social Security. And so for a lot of people, teachers is a good example, would work summer jobs. And they earned a lot of money during those summer jobs, but they got paid very little compared to what they should have gotten on those Social Security contributions, because you were in fact contributing to Social Security during that time. Other people never contributed to Social Security. They never had summer jobs. And so it didn't matter if the windfall elimination provision and government pension offset were eliminated or not. There was nothing to pay out. But the spousal benefit was adjusted. So even if you never contributed to Social Security, you were allowed to claim the spousal benefit. And the same thing with the survivor benefit. If you were not entitled to a survivor benefit before, once the windfall elimination provision and government pension offset were eliminated, you are entitled to the same survivor benefit you would have been entitled to had those provisions never been in place. So yes, you'd have to follow the rules of the survivor benefit. You had to have been married for a certain period of time, 9 months, and so, but assuming that you actually follow the rules, which for most people would be pretty easy, yes, you would be entitled to a survivor benefit as if those provisions were never there.
All right. So Tony Monero's full question came in. He had been asking about what's the freezing Social Security at full retirement age, but he had wanted to know, so My Social Security calculator says my current earnings below $100,000 per year won't increase my Social Security benefits at 70. I'm 1099, about 30,000 per year, paying 12.4% without Social Security increase.
So there are two different things at play here, Tony. One is your 35 years of earnings, which I think is probably what the calculator is talking about. The SSA will take your best 35 years of earnings and bring them into today's dollars, and then use that as the basis to calculate your Social Security payment. But it's not the delayed retirement credits that we're talking about here. That's a separate issue. So you got two things. One is if you were making less, if your average earnings were more than $30,000 a year, earning $30,000 a year more won't really change anything because you're not rolling off any low-paying years. However, the one thing that does come into play is that you actually can get the delayed retirement credits. And so you 8% per year for the years from your full retirement age until the time you reach age 70. I don't know what your full retirement age is, but let's assume it's age 67 for this purpose. And that absolutely is something to really look hard at, because for most people it is a big game changer. The one thing I would say to you is that this doesn't, freezing your Social Security payment or pausing your Social Security payment at age 67 doesn't fit neatly into a Social Security calculator. The one on my website doesn't do that either, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And so it is something, in fact, this would be a great video, but it's something to take note of and know the magnitude of what we're talking about. 8% per year is a big number. And so, but the calculator, I don't think, unless you're using one that I'm unfamiliar with, would be able to capture that, because it doesn't think about the fact that you're going to start and stop again.
Okay, a few people have talked about an audio issue, and I'm hoping not many are having it. It seemed like the way people are responding that it was only pertaining to just a few. So please let us know if anyone else is having the same issue. And VJS Mormol is mentioning that currently uses Bolden and says it's extremely powerful. So thank you for letting us know that. All right, Joanna has a question. She's asking, my husband is the higher earner and plans to delay Social Security. I am 62 and have a much smaller benefit on my own record, approximately $300 at full retirement age. If I wait until 67 and my husband files at 69, I estimate that I could receive approximately $1,600 as a spousal benefit, while he receives around $3,800. Would it be better for him to file at 69 so I can begin receiving a spousal benefit, or for him to wait until 70, even though I would have to wait another year for the spousal benefit?
Yeah, that's a potentially, you have two different outcomes there. One is income earlier versus later. And there isn't a right answer to this. If you were to go back to the Social Security website 20 years ago, they had a break-even chart, and you could just map it out and say, you know what, I'm healthy. I'm going to assume that I'm going to wait, because this is how you optimize every last dollar. The longer you wait, the better. I always hesitate on that one, because when you have conversations with people, they've been trained. It's all about getting the most dollars in over a period of time. But your quality of life changes in retirement. You have early retirement, where you have a lot of energy and you spend a lot of money usually. Then you have mid-stage retirement, where your costs go down significantly, your energy goes down a bit. And then late stage retirement, where costs might go up because of medical costs, but your energy continues to go down. And so you need to look at yourself and answer the question, what are you trying to optimize for? And if you understand what you're trying to optimize for, then you'll probably have your answer. One of the things that you optimize for is the survivor benefit. And there are reasons to wait to full retirement age, wait till 70. Depends on your situation. I would say we talked about an example earlier where someone had limited time. And in that instance, it might make more sense to claim a bit earlier for the family. But each one is your own specific situation. And so I wish I could give you a very specific formulaic answer to your question, because it sounds like it should have a formulaic answer, but it unfortunately it doesn't. Just ask yourself what you're optimizing for and then take it from there.
All right. We're in our last 5 minutes, but we have a bunch of questions still coming in. So let's see how many of these we can get to. So Chase Fell is asking, on another show, they were told to draw Social Security at 62 and invest it. Did they consider that? Were they perhaps considering that I kept working, making $120,000 and investing that?
Yeah, I think this is, I got some nasty comments on this point one time. I put out a video called, and you can find it and just read the comments, you'll see what I'm talking about. Should you take your Social Security early and invest, or wait until full retirement age? And the conclusion was that mathematically, it didn't, there wasn't a point where either one won. Now, I had to make some assumptions. I had to assume that people weren't going to be swinging for the fences and trying to invest in Bitcoin or something like that. So we used a very conservative rate of return, and we used, instead of the 4% rule, we used 5%. And so the answer really is, when you take Social Security early and you invest it, you're taking something that is designed to be one type of income flow, and you're transforming it into another type of income flow, and you're taking additional risk to do it, because the payments from Social Security are what they are. You can plan your life around what happens at different ages, whereas you can't plan your life around taking your Social Security and investing it. If you'd taken your Social Security early and invested it from 2004 to 2008, in 2009, you would have lost a big portion of that, and you wouldn't have recovered until 2013. That was the global financial crisis. For many of you remember that. Same thing in 2022, when about the time Russia invaded the Ukraine, inflation was raging at 8%, and the market just dropped. But it wasn't just the stock market; it was the bond market too. So anybody that was in a target date fund saw their target date fund drop pretty significantly. And so you're taking on additional risk. And is it the right strategy? If you're a risk taker, maybe. But really just understand, and then you overlay the fact that you're actually earning $100,000 a year. Well, you gotta have to give it all back anyway, because of the fact that you're over the earnings limit. Or if you stop working, what are you going to live on? Are you going to take money out of your investments to live, only to take Social Security and put it back in your investments? So there are a lot of variables there that you really need to think through. People have done it. They usually have a pension of some sort, and maybe it works in that instance, or maybe they have some other type of guaranteed income product, and so they don't need to worry about the earnings test. But by and large, if you ask the average person, they got a lot of things to think about. And so I would just say, make sure you put everything you have on the table. If you're earning $100,000 a year, it's pretty clear you're going to have to give it all back anyway, because you're well over the earnings test, and you have to give back $1 for every two. And the limit in 2026 is $24,480. And so by the time you get to 100,000, you've given it all back. That's all I got.
Okay, great. Okay, so Jeff Weissman is asking, would you ever suggest a couple wait for collecting their Social Security at 70 for both? Spouse are close in age and the lower earner is close to the higher spouse's half PIA.
If I understand the question, under what circumstances would a couple both wait until age 70 to claim their own Social Security payment? The obvious one is the survivor benefit, because you're optimizing the survivor benefit for both partners. And depending on who has what, the survivor is going to end up with the larger of the two payments. But under most circumstances, you really want to, you don't want to brute force it. You actually want to look at things like your health, and you want to look at things like your partner's health. You want to look at what your goals and desires are. But the time you might want to both wait until 70 is you're going to expect big expenses in late stage retirement, maybe long-term care. There are a lot of reasons why you might want to consider it, and just there isn't one single reason, but there are good reasons to do it, and there are good reasons not to do it.
All right, there's one more question in the chat box. If we could just take that one quickly. Steve is asking, if my spouse files a spousal benefit at 62, parentheses, she has no record of her own, the only way to increase the reduced amount would be when I die, and she would receive the 50% of my record. Is that correct?
No. So the spousal benefit is distinct from the survivor benefit. They both begin with S, and they both go to the same person, but it's not the same thing. The survivor benefit, your spouse will have the opportunity, if that's the right word, if you were to pass early, your spouse could assume your Social Security payment, and the closer your partner is to full retirement age, the closer they will get to 100% of your Social Security payment. And so if your Social Security payment was 100% of your full retirement age benefit, let's just say it's $2,000, then if they were full retirement age themselves, they would get the $2,000. The 50% really only applies to the spousal benefit, and that's all.
All right, we are 2 minutes past the hour. So I just want to say a big thank you to our listeners. We have a really active chat box, and people are contributing and having conversation as, Jeff, you are answering. And I think it's really great that you all are connecting. So thank you so much for being here with us. And Jeff, I will turn it back over to you.
All right, gang. So thank you so much for our Tuesday night live stream and joining me. It's late your time, I'm sure. It's late our time, but we will continue to do this every Tuesday night between now and December, when I go on vacation next. I don't plan on taking any time off between now and then. So thank you so much for staying up with us. Jill, thank you for your expert guidance as always. And with that, I think we're done. We'll see you next Tuesday. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.